What if I told you you're actually not too old to make it in music? What if I told you that at your big age, you can absolutely still pursue your dreams? Like, for real. No more spiraling in circles or crying in the shower thinking it's too late, but actually connecting your music to real humans who love what you do. Now, if you think that's impossible, then I want you to buckle up, grab a pen and paper, and get ready to take some notes, because I'm about to walk you through the 5 steps that completely changed my life. 5 steps that took me from nearly quitting music entirely when I was about to turn 30 to growing millions of streams in a few short years. And I'm not the only one who resurrected from the brink of burnout. When I started working with Michelle, she too had just turned 30 and was in a deep state of overwhelm and uncertainty, feeling as though her time had passed, especially as a woman in music. Now, less than a year later, Michelle has completely reclaimed her story. She recently shared with me this: I just feel like I'm being creative again. Every time I open my TikTok, I'm seeing connections with people who are commenting and inboxing me. And she also shared,
if I'd have had this when I was releasing music in my 20s, my career in music would have went totally differently.
But the truth is, Michelle could have never found this type of success in her 20s, and neither could I. Because now, as adults, we have so much more purpose and needing to inject in our artistry. And that's what this video is all about. Turning that unique, matured story into a scalable system for your music. However, before we get started, if you want to experience the same transformation that both Michelle and I experienced, then please click the link in the description below titled Artist Consultation. That way you and I can meet, discuss what's blocking you from success, and discuss a customized path to get through it. Okay, let's dive in. Now, you might think the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is master content, crack the content code, hack the algorithm. But nope. We need to stop obsessing over what we're doing and start by realigning with why we're doing it in the first place. And that's the first step. You need to reinstate self-belief. You've been in the muck and grime of self-doubt for way too long. You are fully pruny, marinating in the sauce of sadness, burnout, and imposter syndrome. Your lack of self-belief is influencing every single decision you make. Even the simplest of tasks becomes burdened by mental exhaustion as you overthink everything. Part of what you're dealing with is decision fatigue, because you don't know what are the right decisions to make just yet. And so every time you pause to overthink, a loud voice starts screaming in the back of your brain. You're too old, it says. You look stupid. You're not good enough. This is cringe. Your confidence is shattered. So we need to rewire that first. You need to remember why you started making music in the first place. You need to literally reconnect the synapses in your brain that were once lit up with passion and joy for this craft. You need to start this entire process by asking the deepest, most profound questions, such as, why do I make music? Why is my music important? Why does the world need my art? Once you understand the answers to those questions, then and only then can you move forward. Believing in what you're doing is like planting your roots in the ground, ones that will allow you to weather any storm. Without it, the slightest windstorm will knock you upside down and fully destabilize you. And yes, you betcha, there will be many windstorms coming up. And once you have that belief fully embodied, then we can move on to step 2. You need to own your story. And I mean own your story. Because of all that self-doubt we just spoke about, you're probably avoiding your story just a little bit. Maybe it's bringing up feelings and frequencies of shame, of embarrassment, especially if you are disappointed in where you're at in your life and in music. But on the real, your story is your lifeline. It is the root of your artistry. It is what fuels your music, your message, and your creative identity. Your story is going to be the driving factor for your content strategy. And I know that lack of self-confidence is going to make you want to completely reject your story, but if you are rejecting your story, then you are literally rejecting your creative voice. And if you reject your voice, guess what? So will your audience. They'll feel the disconnect, they'll sense the facade, they will not click follow. And also, they might get a little confused When you understand your story in how it impacts your artistic voice across everything you do, not just the music you write, but also how you show up on social media, then people get a clear picture of who you are, what your music is about, and your clear perspective as an artist. If you don't understand that story, be it your literal human story or your brand story, then you will make unclear, inconsistent, and therefore possibly confusing decisions in your artistry. And if people are confused, if they don't understand you, they won't stick around, they won't follow you, they won't stream your music, at least not in the long term, because they're not gonna know what they're getting from you. Okay, so now that we've recentered your belief and you're owning your artistic story, the next step is to identify who is on the other side of the screen. Your music at this point in your life is entirely different than someone who is 20 and just trying to be the next hot thing. You've got life lessons, deeper experiences, and a synthesized sense of meaning that you bring into your music. That perspective is for a specific community. And to create a strategy that resonates, you need to know exactly who you're aiming at. When you know who your ideal fan is, your strategy gains directional clarity. In other words, when you know who your content is for, then you can integrate intentional messaging into your content, as well as know how to use the algorithm as a tool to get in front of those exact people. If you do not identify your ideal audience, then you can never get clear on any of that. You risk then approaching your content strategy like how most artists do, like a random lottery, like you're throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks. When you know your ideal community, your music, your content, and your overall presence of how you show up completely transforms. It was through gaining this clarity that artists like Nikaya started connecting with their most ideal community of fans. Nikaya shared, just 2 months after joining the Academy, I know I'm reaching quality fans who deeply receive my art. And that's the point, to resonate, to be received. Your life, your art, your music, it's all way more specific than it used to be when you were younger. You don't make art for just anyone, at least not anymore. When you know who you are creating music for, then you know where you are aiming at in your content and your strategy. It'll no longer be like throwing spaghetti at the walls, but instead like practicing hitting bullseye. And sometimes you might not hit bullseye. Sometimes you might not even hit the board at all. But at least you know where you are aiming. The alternative is like being dropped in a dark room with a blindfold on, being spun around 10 times, and then told to hit bullseye. It's aimless, basically impossible. All right, so now that we've talked about recentering your belief, owning your story, and really identifying who your music and strategy are for, we're about to move into those final 2 steps that'll tie everything together. But before we do, I just wanna remind you, if you're anything like Nikaya or Michelle, and you're really serious about creating a sustainable strategy for your music as a more mature artist with a heightened perspective, but you're feeling overwhelmed and you need support, just click the link in the description below titled Artist Consultation. That way you and I can chat about how I can help you do exactly that. All right, so now let's dive into the 4th tip. Now that we've discussed the first 3 tips, we can finally bring it all together and create your unique artistic offer. And the only way we can successfully do this is by truly understanding your story, having that recentered sense of belief, and knowing exactly who you are aiming at in your strategy. Without those components, we cannot build something truly unique, truly aligned, nor deeply resonant. And unique is the key word here. I want you to think of the human brain from our most deepest animalistic parts, like the caveman brain that's instinctually buried deep down in our subconscious. When our brain perceives something as different, it immediately stands out to us. In that moment, our brain is processing and assessing the threat level of that new information. Our brain pauses. It pays attention. Adversely, when our brain perceives something as normal or the same, it becomes desensitized by it. In the world of social media, that's the content that we swipe past, the stuff that blends in that we're desensitized to. Considering this, one of the core cruxes of our strategy is that we need to stand out. But we don't want to stand out simply for the sake of standing out. We're not simply chasing virality or ego metrics or doing anything just to get attention. We want to do it in a way, we need to do it in a way that integrates your integrity as an artist. At this point in your journey, you're sharing genuine human perspective and creative opinion that synthesizes your life stories. You want to create a unique offer that resonates on both a forward literal level and a deep subconscious level with your core artistic integrity with that deep sense of purpose. Take Mike, for instance. Upon following the steps inside Artist Alignment Academy, Mike grew tens of thousands of followers, millions of views, and he actually 10x'd his Spotify following. However, throughout that process, he realized that the numbers were not the secret to true artistic growth. Even though he had a lot of views, he realized his most viral videos did not necessarily bring in the core audience members that he wanted. We needed a more dialed in, unique artistic offering, and so we refined his strategy and created that unique artistic offer with 100% his artistic integrity present. Now, he's following a strategy that does not prioritize going viral, but instead resonates deeply with the right people, much more deeply. So whether his content is doing really well and getting high views, or even content that might not, he knows each and every time it is designed to build that deep resonance, and that focus, that clarity of decision-making is what matters most, and is what brings in and compounds actual fan engagement across time. And that's the difference between where you're at right now as an adult and the type of success that you might have wanted in your 20s years ago. The younger we are, the more we're swayed by numbers and metrics and fame and stimulus. The older we become, the more we're swayed by purpose and meaning and by feeling good. For you to connect with the right fans, the ones who are primed for your unique artistic voice, then you must reconfigure your relationship with numbers. Instead of seeking numbers for the sake of numbers, we must seek numbers as a byproduct, as a symptom of connection and resonance. That requires your artistic offer to be exceptionally one of a kind and super dialed in. Once we have that unique offering, that's when we move on to the final step, building your scalable strategy. But this is truly where most artists get stuck in self-sabotage. Comment below if this description sounds familiar. You sit down to create content, you start overthinking, you get lost in decision fatigue, you start scrambling for ideas because you don't know what's working, you don't know what's going to work, and that begins draining your energy because you're like, what's going on? I don't know what to do. And so to get inspiration, you hop on TikTok, you start scrolling. You're looking at what are other artists doing that's working? What can I do for myself? Then in that process, you start comparing yourself to those artists. And before you know it, you're in this dopamine, dysregulated loop of swiping and comparing and feeling anxious and feeling drained. It creates this whole energetic whirlwind where you're tying emotional reactivity to the process of content creation because you're looking at everything through this narrow lens of what's right in front of you. What we want to do is remove those blinders and take a step back. We want to approach this like a strategy. Take out the emotional reactivity and look at simply what is the information. We can only plan our strategy when we're in relationship with the data, knowing what's working so we can do more of it and what's not working so we can change it. And the simplest way to do this is by opening up that analytics button that you so often ignore and focus on the retention rate of your content. We want to see how long people are actually watching because that is the core metric that will help us keep people engaged and get our content in front of more people. TikTok, Instagram Reels, they want the money, honey. They want people on the platform. Views bring money, views bring attention. So if your content is getting a lot of views, if your content is proving to the algorithm that it is keeping people on the platform for longer, it is going to send your content to more people. So now, this isn't just a unique artistic offering just to showcase what we're doing, even though that's a huge part of what we're doing. This is a strategy where we are looking at, okay, what is the retention rate? What is the average watch time percentage of our content? And what can I do in each singular piece of content to increase that number each and every time? And how can I sit with the information instead of getting emotional and really observe that so that I can improve it time and time and time again? These are the exact steps we take inside my artist coaching program. Walk you through exactly the granular detail of everything that I just described because it is so crucial to growth. And when we do all of this successfully, when we create a healthy ecosystem with the way we show up in our content strategy, then we can show up consistently. With that consistency, we compound our actions over time. We compound our visibility, our engagements, and our metrics. The algorithm learns the more we post and the better our content performs. The alternative is that if we let the emotionality of the process remove us from that consistency, we end up on a roller coaster ride of high highs and low lows, and we cannot sustain that if we want to grow. So to wrap this all up, you've got to be in that state of self-belief because with that belief, you can weather all of the storms of uncertainty. Owning your story lets you show up with integrity and purpose and resonance. Knowing your ideal fan gives you direction, And creating your unique offer lets you stand out. From there, when you understand the information of content and show up consistently, you compound your results over time and grow rather than get stuck in patterns of inconsistency that are not serving you. And this is exceptionally crucial for those of you who are not 20 years old anymore, who are not chasing the next hot thing. You're someone with real human experience. You have the ability to approach it this way, to build a community that you truly have impact on, not just a system of chasing numbers for the sake of numbers, fame for the sake of fame, but creating real artistic impact. And that's exactly what I did. I went from being on the brink of quitting to going all in, but in a different way. And now, a little over 3 years later, my music is soaring, my community is growing, and I've never felt so incredibly connected, not only to the art that I make, but also to the process through which I share that art. Now, if you found this video insightful and transformative, but you are feeling a bit of that paralysis by analysis, wondering, how the heck do I get started with this process? Then please click the link below titled Artist Consultation so that you and I can meet, we can chat and discuss how I can help you move through all of these steps that I just lined out with extreme clarity and efficiency so that you too can reclaim your life and finally reach the community who needs to hear your music most. And of course, please consider liking and subscribing to this channel as I will be uploading videos every single week to help you come into alignment with your artistry and develop sustainable strategies to reach the right community for your music. Turn on your bell notifications as well so that you never miss an upload. And if you found anything helpful in this video or might have a specific question that I can help with, please comment your breakthroughs and comment your questions below. Remember, you got this. Your artistry is a beacon for real people who need it, and every strategy, every tactic, every algorithm is simply a tool to help you build it no matter the age. So let's start a build-in, shall we? Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.